Alright guys, here's my Hansshow power trunk install version 4 for my 2018 Tesla Model 3. In the box is all kinds of wires and little pieces, of course the power struts, so it can be a little daunting, but really it's all plug and play. It's quite easy to install. First things first, you want to add some towels to your rear windshield to protect the cracking of the windshield when you remove these spring-loaded struts here. There's a little piece on the top you're going to have to pry open to release it out of its socket here. Just take it nice and slow. Once you get that off, we're going to install our new power strut. It just clamps right into its little socket. Remove any excess lubrication that may have came out the side. We're going to do the same on the left side, just moving your towel on over. Taking your flathead screwdriver again, removing the top latch to release it from its socket. Gently pull up on it and release the last one, and of course do the same thing for this power strut here as well. Once you have that all cleaned up and ready to go, we're going to remove our piece on the bottom part of the trunk by gently pulling on either side. You'll hear some clamps come free. It's going to release from the weather seal at the bottom. Once you have that removed, we're just going to put that to the side. And you'll notice if you look closely, there's like 5 or 6 pins on the rear part of the trunk. Just use your little tool here to remove the clips. It comes with the Hansshow power trunk kit. And they're all exactly the same size, so you don't have to worry about where they came from. Just put them all in a little bin when you have them removed. Just gently pull up on the trim, release it from its weather seal on the side. And of course there's another piece, another little plastic clip above the trunk light, one on the right and of course one on the left. And again, it's the same size as the base part of the trunk. Once you have those removed, put them to the side. You'll be putting them back in later. Now there's a little top plastic piece on the top part of the trunk. Just gently pull on this as well. It should come free. It's pretty easy to remove. Put that to the side. And now you're able to look at all the contents. On the right side you have your subwoofer and other wiring mechanisms you have to remove. So we're going to remove the rear taillights now. And there's these two little screws at the top. I'm just going to put a towel over the top of them to prevent scratching. Turn left to release the tension, and of course unscrew them and put those to the side as well. It's a fairly large piece. Same thing on the left. Now there's two little nuts you have to remove here. Just unscrew them with a little wrench. And slowly release the tail lights. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the power strut through the back hole here. And I'm going to leave a little bit of slack so the water can run off of that cord and not into the interior of the cabin. Just leave a little slack like you can see right here. And then I'm going to reinstall my tail lights. It should snap right back into place. Do the same thing on the left. You have to unplug the wire from the tail lights. Unscrew the little nuts. Make sure they don't fall. You can see there it almost fell down into the cubby. That would have been awful. Release the other nuts, and of course gently pull away the tail light there. Same thing, just running the wire through the hole of the rear tail lights. Leaving a little slack again so the water can run off of the wire, and then reinstall our tail light. Just gonna screw those little top wing nuts back in. reattaching or screwing back in the washer nuts. Do the same thing on the right side. Alright, once those are all tight back into place here, of course plug in your rear taillights again, don't forget about that. Now you have your power struts installed and through the rear taillights. Now you're going to take the longest wire here. You'll see where it says power lock or power trunk lock. That's going to be fed through the top part of the trunk, all the way through the side and up to the top lid of the trunk. There's this little white piece here where that clips into our power trunk lid, and there's a little yellow tab on it you're gonna have to remove. So I took a picture of which way the colors are coordinated on the wires, and I start prying with a little flathead screwdriver, little piece, just removing the wires from that little piece. So this makes our lives easier to run the wire through the part of the car. Now I'm going to remove the top part of the trunk. Again, just use your fingers, gently pull and break loose the plastic pieces that are holding in the frame. Just gently pulling it down until it comes loose. Any of those little excess clips you see, I'm just reattaching back into its little slot. Grabbing your little tool again, removing any of those little green tabs, and reaffixing it to the trunk lid. Now I'm going to take my included fish wire and just break free that little rubber gasket seal and run it through the frame itself. I had to actually clip off these zip ties to make it easier for the wires to run through. So you just run it through the base of the frame, straightening out the fish tie the best you can. Running it through the tube, through the top of the trunk. And just grab it through the top lid of the trunk. There's a little hole where you should be able to reach your fingers in and grab the fish. There we go. Now I'm going to attach the wire fish through that little hole of the fish line. Now I'm going to take some electrical tape and wire it around the fish line. Make sure it's nice and tight, and then just completely pull the fish line through that little tube there, nice and slow. Feeding the wires through the right side of the trunk through that tube. Pulling it all the way through as you see here, and I'm going to go through the other top part of the trunk. Again, using your hands to grab the fish line all the way through the very, very top, making sure it's not getting snagged by any means. Once you have that completely pulled through the top part of the trunk, we are then going to cut or remove that electrical tape. Be careful not to cut the actual wire itself. And remove the fish line. Now we're just going to remove the trunk latch lid. Using a little flathead screwdriver, pop it free. And this other second wire I'm plugging is all plug and play. You can't possibly screw this up. Just plug it into its socket. Snaps right into place. Just tucking it behind the other wires. plug and play, very easy. Now we're gonna reaffix that little plastic piece we took off earlier. Again, we took a picture of it with our cell phone. We're gonna line it back up and put it into its slots. Once the wires are back in their slots, we're gonna take that yellow piece and clip it back into place. Now this is really easy. We're just removing the pre-cut wires. I'm just twisting the copper wires together to prevent any fraying. And I'm just taking my electrical tape and we're just gonna match up the colors, yellow with yellow, blue with blue, white with white, etc. Again, if these clips that you're hooking up to the trunk do not fit properly, it probably means it doesn't go there. Again, every piece is different and unique, making this as easy as possible for you guys. Still, I'm just taking my electrical tape and wiring this all up. Taping that all together. So now we have our trunk button and we're going to tuck in the excess wire in the rear of the trunk, and that part is done. Now we're going to remove our trunk lights with the remaining wire. Again, these are just plug and play as well. I'm just going to release the original OEM light fixtures and we're just going to tuck away the old clips in the back. Once you have that affixed, the wire will eventually get tucked away on top with that plastic trim we took off earlier. Now we're going to remove the trunk latch with a Torx 45, a T45 screw. And I'm just taking a piece of electrical tape and lining up where the original part of the frame was here so I don't get mixed up later, but I'm just releasing these two screws here. Once you have that removed, now we can install the new trunk latch. You notice I tucked it into the rear of the trunk where we removed the clips. Just removing the trunk lid to get a better view here. Just tuck it in there. And now we have the new latch that goes right over the top. Putting the screws back into its place. I'm lining it up with the electrical tape I put on there earlier. I'm not completely tightening it down because I want to make sure it completely latches first. And then you're going to take the wire from that trunk latch and then just kind of tuck it into the side and plug it into the little computer box we have here that we'll be tucking away on the right side of the car. Find a good spot for that little trunk latch computer box. There's 3M tape on the rear of it, so you'll be able to remove that and then just slap it to the side of the trunk, making sure you're not going to pinch the wire. Again, tucking away the electrical wire in the side and running it to the right side of the car here. And now I'm just attaching my power struts that we did earlier. Again, this is all plug and play. I'm just tucking in the wire, hiding it away. Does not matter which port you plug it into because it all fits accordingly. And I'm just getting a general idea where I'm going to put this computer box. I'm going to stick it right there. Looks like it's a good spot right on the side. Now we're going to take the included 3M material, the little adhesive tape, and affix it to the back. And before I tuck away this little computer box, I want to install my last wire here, which is the power wire that will go to our 12-volt battery. Just clip that into its slot. Again, it's a different piece, all plug and play. Now I'm going to attach this to the right side of my vehicle. Again, it just sticks right into place. It's like right next to the subwoofer. Now I'm going to attach my little beeper. plug and play, and there's a little adhesive on the side. I'm just going to stick that to the rear as well. Now we're going to access the rear trunk with that wire. There's two little tabs under the passenger seat. You're just going to push it to the side to release the clamp, and the same thing on the other side, and gently pull up on the seat. Be careful not to completely remove it because there are wires for the heated seats. Those will break free with a little flathead screwdriver. Just release the little clamp. Again, both on each side have to be removed before you take off the seat. Remove the driver's side. Once you have those wires released, just kind of set it to the side. Now we have access to the base. And there is access to our 12-volt battery. This is the same connection to up front, so instead of running the wire all the way up to the front of the vehicle where the 12-volt battery is, I'm just going to run it to this 12-volt section of the vehicle. Works just as well. And now we're going to release this little side panel. Just gently pull up on it and release and remove that piece. And now there's another clip right where my fingers are right there. I'm just going to remove it with that little tool that's included with the box. It's the same exact clip you find in the trunk. Again, you can't possibly get them mixed up. They're all exactly the same. Once you have that removed, put it to the side, and we're going to release that little trim, and now we have access from the rear trunk to run our wire. Just kind of sliding it through the side here. Feeding our wires through. Just kind of tucking it in the side, nice and neatly. Going around the seat belt. And now I'm going to reaffix that pin and the side panel. Get that out of the way. Tucking in the wires where they were before. Put your seat back. Clip on the little adapter, and there's your access to your 12-volt battery right there. So before I even attach it, to be safe, I'm going to power down the vehicle under system settings and power down, and just release that little nut. And of course the screw is so long, my little ratchet set would not reach the base, so I had to use a little screwdriver here to release the tension. And while I was unscrewing this, I noticed there was no ground connector. I couldn't find one, or a dedicated ground connector. So I ended up taking the ground connection back to the trunk again. But from here, I'm just gonna attach the battery wire underneath the screw here. Once it's under there, we can tighten down the screw. After that's tightened down, we're going to take our included zip ties and neatly fold up the wire. Cut any remaining part of the zip tie off. Just kind of tuck it in neatly right in there. And you're gonna have a lot of excess wire here, so fold that up neatly as well with another zip tie. because they technically want you to run this all the way to the front of the vehicle, which I find ridiculous. Just kind of do it this way. The battery is right under the seat. Take your zip tie again, tie it up, cut the remaining part of the zip tie off, and then tuck all that excess wire under this cable here. Making sure everything's reconnected back. Put your foam piece back over the top of it, making sure it fits nicely. And then we're gonna reattach our seat. Again, don't forget to plug in the rear heated seats first. And of course, feed the seat belt through the hole. I almost forgot it there. And then the seat will clip back into place. And here you'll see I found a dedicated ground connection. It's right next to the rear subwoofer, so I'm going to release that wing nut on there and attach my ground connection. And I fed this wire through as you saw me earlier, and I noticed again there was no ground connection, so I just pulled it back through the trunk and then reaffixed it and connected it to the rear taillight where there's a ground connection. Again, just folding up the wire neatly using the zip ties. Tuck it in there nice and neatly. So now we have to install our trunk button here. So what I like to do, I took off the little washer here, little plastic washer, and just kind of got an idea where I was going to attach this. And I took a Sharpie marker and just drew a circle where I wanted the hole to be drilled. And then you're going to take your drill and use the included drill bit that comes with the kit. And just start drilling your hole here nice and slow. And now you're going to take your little button, weave it through the hole, reattach your little washer nut, and screw that into place, making sure it's nice and straight. Once it looks good, nice and tight, we're going to reattach our lid. Of course, hook up the trunk button and line up the trunk lid the best of your ability and reattach it nice and slow. You'll hear a bunch of clicking and popping back into its place. Once that piece is back into its place here, we're now going to remove those little plastic springs from the original trunk and re-close up those holes with the included rubber seals here. It's very important to remove those Tesla spring guys because these power struts will not work with them, so you have to remove those little pieces. Just grab them with your hand and pull them right off. And just give your trunk a little test here by pushing on the button, making sure it latches with the little lock. If it's not clicking, you're going to have to readjust your lock below on the base of the trunk. So now I'm back in the rear seat. I'm just reattaching my side panel, lining up with the holes, and then it should snap back into its slot. And now I'm going to take a little bit of electrical tape and just over the top of the sensor, the noise siren thing, or the noise speaker I should say, just because I thought it was too loud, so I covered up half of the hole to diminish the sound. If you don't want this hooked up at all, you can just unhook it and have no beeping noise at all. I just preferred a small little beep every time I push the button and the trunk would open. So now I'm just reattaching my trim under the weather seal. And I'm taking the top part of the trunk, and again, that's the wire from the trunk lights. Again, just sliding the trim back under the weather seal and putting that top piece back into place. It should keep keeping the wire settled in that little piece there. And you have to take your 2 clips and reattach them back into their designated slot. It should snap right back into place on each side, left and right. And getting that trim, the weather seal, underneath the plastic trim, and you can see me hitting it there, just giving it a couple snaps back into its place. Just reattaching the trim and the weather seal using your fingers. And now we can reattach the plastic clips back into their holes. All across the base. And one last thing is, don't forget to tighten down your trunk latch. You can see me doing here one final tighten, making sure it's all good there. And now we can affix our base plastic piece of the trunk. Again, just pulling back that weather seal over the top of the lid. You can also use your little tools. You can see I grabbed it here. And that will just snap right back into place. And then I'm just reaffixing that little plastic tube here, the little tube where the wire was, reaffixing the seal. Also on the top. And then I'm going to take my zip ties that I cut earlier and reapply new zip ties over the original holes. Feed it on through and reaffix that little hose there, a little tube. Lining it up the way it was before. Also in the middle section, just feeding it through the hole. Zip tying that back up. And of course take your scissors and cut any excess off.